Hello, Top Fan Rivalry family and Dirty Water Dispatch. We are back live. Yes, it's been a little bit of time since we've done this. We've got baseball season back, and we got a special guest tonight, and Steve's on, and we are so excited to have him on. And I'm going to kind of turn this over to Lesley and kind of make it happen. Steve's kind of been lighting us up a little bit before and make us laugh a little bit. So I'm excited to have you on, Steve. It's going to be fun.
I'm happy about it.
So. I'm going to do like a really quick intro because I sent them this long thing because it's Steve Lyons and I want to brag on him a little bit, but I won't read the whole 12 pages that I sent them earlier. Like here's just a little bit about Steve and then you scroll forever. Steve Lyons, for those of you who don't know, actually accomplished a rare feat in 1990 during an exhibition game in Wrigley, playing all 9 positions. So, I mean, let's start there. Utility player for the Red Sox mainly, and I love the fact that they called you back, 4-5 times?
4 times.
Which is unheard of. 3 was the record, and no one had done that before. Also played for the Braves and the Cubbies and the White Sox and the Expos. I don't think I missed anyone there. Nope. Won 2 Gold Gloves at Oregon State, kind of started off there, and then really decided to show off his hitting abilities when he came to my home state and played summer ball in Dodge City, Kansas, hitting .377, getting him noticed and picked up by the Red Sox in the first round. Then went to Winston-Salem, then up to Pawtucket. I don't think I'm missing one in between there. Oh, Bristol, Connecticut, and then Pawtucket. And then obviously the Red Sox, where we love to call him our player and no one else really gets him. And then did, after he retired from baseball, after playing 9 seasons, did commentary for Fox Sports and NESN and this other team that Bill likes. It's no big deal.
Yeah. I call him America's Team Steve, but Lesley doesn't like that.
No, that's
the
mine.
Best team that money can buy. Hey,
there you go.
I used to like. I did 10 years with them until they let me go, and so I don't really like them that much anymore. I like the team. I don't like the organization.
There you go.
I knew I liked you, Steve. I knew it. But welcome to Top Fan and Dirty Water. And yeah, happy to have you on.
Awesome. Happy to be here. Let's do it.
Okay, so Steve, I like to ask this question when we lead off things. I always like to ask the question, what was draft day like for you when you found out that you were going to be playing for money? What was that like for you? What were the emotions? What were the feelings?
It was kind of a cluster, actually. I was at Oregon State. My parents were actually visiting because my birthday is June 3rd and the draft was right around that time. I had heard from a Philly scout that they were going to draft me in the 3rd round. And back in those days, they only did the first 2 rounds and then they did the 3rd round and the rest of the draft the next day. So, of course, back then we didn't have cell phones or anything. My eventual wife, my girlfriend, was living in Eugene. I told her, please try not to call me during the day. I said I'd call her if I found out anything because I didn't want the line behind. And long story short, my phone never rang. And I guess what happened was when I originally came back from Dodge City after having a really good year there, I came back so late, all my buddies got roommates already. So I had nowhere to live. And I roomed with this guy who was from Whittier, California. And he had this thing that he put on a wall. It was like one of those mirrors with a bar, and it was like a shaving thing. It was kind of decorative. However, he used to take it off the wall, put it on the front dining room table and snort coke off of it. So I'm like, holy crap, I can't live here anymore. So I moved out. And it turns out the people from the draft, Major League Baseball and everybody, that's the address they had for me. And I had moved already, so they couldn't find me. So my friend calls me and I almost got mad. I'm like, she goes, did you hear anything? And I said, no, I haven't heard anything. I told her to call you something. She goes, no. We heard down here. It's all over the news in Eugene down here that you got drafted in the first round by the Red Sox. And I'm like, don't mess with me. She goes, no, I'm not kidding. Well, my father's from Boston. So it was a big deal for him. And obviously for me too, because I was raised a Red Sox fan growing up in Eugene, Oregon. And my dad called the Oregonian, which is the newspaper, and he was funny. He said, are you sure you have the right Steve Lyons, Stephen John Lyons at Oregon State? Are you sure you have the right guy? And they're like, yeah, that's the guy. And so we kind of went nuts after that. And that was pretty cool. They finally found me.
They found you.
I love that. I love that. Oh my goodness.
That's one of the best draft day stories I've ever heard, Steve. I'm not gonna lie to you.
I got a 20-minute story for every stupid thing that happens to me because nothing goes easily.
I feel that on like a really personal level, especially today. So it's been a day. So you get drafted, you go to Winston-Salem, then Bristol, then Pawtucket, then our beloved Fenway. So what was let's do two. I mean, let's do it. Break it down. What was the first experience like locker room wise, field wise, when you get to Winston-Salem, and then same for, walking out onto
Winston-Salem. That was
Fenway Park. That's craziness.
Yeah, going to Winston-Salem was really crazy. I'll try to do the Cliff Notes version. I wrote a book, and the story's in the book. But we basically lost I think we lost 12 games in a row. We were on a 14-day road trip, and we lost 12 games in a row. Our bus driver died. We tapped one of our players out the back window of the bus. I got a very good education on what pro baseball was about. I mean, there were three guys in the corner smoking cigarettes, and I was like, what? What's this about? And, we had all walks of life. We were playing with Venezuelans and Puerto Ricans and, guys from the South, guys from the North, guys didn't get along just because they just didn't get along. And I'm a kid from Oregon, doesn't know nothing. And I show up there and guys are calling each other bad names in the clubhouse, stuff that you could never call each other outside the clubhouse, but it's sort of like that's the life in there. But I didn't know that. So I'm shivering in a corner on my first night going home. And so that was Winston-Salem. Better experience when I got to Boston. And I do this with everybody who comes to visit. Like, hey, Steve, you're going to be at the game. We're coming in. And I'm like, yeah, I'll meet you at the front gate and I'll take you around a little bit. And what I do is I probably should know the entryway there, but there's an entrance into Fenway Park when you go up the ramp. Yes. And the thing you see is the Green Monster. Well, just 20 yards to your right is that same entrance that the players have. So on my first day, I was staying at the Prudential or something like that. I threw open the curtain and there were 3 inches of snow on the ground. And I was like, holy moly, we're going to get snowed out on opening day? Well, they cleared off the snow and I got there and same thing. When, you go from the clubhouse, you go under the stands and you're walking for about, 30 yards under the stands. And then when you first see Fenway, when you hit the steps, there's about 5 steps that bring you up to the field. And the first thing that slaps you in the face is the Green Monster. And I'm telling you, if your knees don't buckle and you don't get emotional at that time, like I might right now, you're not human. You're not, it's, oh my God, I'm in Fenway. And I never saw Fenway Park before I played there. I never saw a Major League Baseball game before I was playing in one. So there you go. So that's how special it was for me.
I feel that on a very personal level, especially about Fenway. It's just my favorite place ever. So
I agree with you too. The first time, I've been to a lot of baseball parks and growing up in Orange County and going to Anaheim Stadium and Dodger Stadium a lot. But the first time we went to Fenway a couple of years ago, when you walk as a fan, even when you walk up the row and you see the field for the first time, it's a different feeling. It's historic. It's amazing. It's a lot of things because you think of all the guys that have played there.
Oh yeah.
Right.
And deep into the summer when the sun doesn't set for a long time, but you get the dusk at about 9 o'clock or 9:30, and it's just starting to get dark. And then they bring the lights on and you can still see the clouds over the backdrop of the stadium. Of course, there used to be a bigger backdrop. Now, when I played there was nothing around there. Now all those high rises and everything that's going on around Fenway, it's cool, but it's a lot different than when I played, obviously a billion years ago. But, there's not many better views than a picture that you can take at Fenway Park at almost any period of time before, during, or after the game.
Yeah.
So you expressed the emotion of what it felt like to come out of the clubhouse, get in the dugout. What was your emotion or what was your feeling the first time you saw your name in the starting lineup, and your first actual at bat? What was that like?
Another crazy, stupid story. So
I love it.
I love it. Keep them coming.
Yeah, that bat. We were playing in Chicago against the White Sox, and Tony Armas was our center fielder. And I kind of made him as a utility player, but at that time, center field was my natural position. And Tony sometimes, you know, if we have a rain delay or something like that, his back would tighten up. And that's what happened. So the first time I got an at bat was in Chicago, and Juan Augusto was the pitcher. And I hit left-handed, and I really couldn't hit lefties. And Juan Augusto was a little lefty that threw a crap ton of breaking balls. I couldn't hit a breaking ball to save my life anyway. So I smoked the ball down the right field line, and it went foul by about that much. And I'm like, my first at bat could have been a double, maybe even a triple. And then I ended up walking. So there's nobody in the history of the game that is hoping that their first major league at bat is a walk. But I'm also a very unique story because even though I made the team out of spring training, I was on the team the entire year. I didn't make my first start until Memorial Day. I mean, that's end of May. That's 2 months into the season. And so back then, John McNamara and typical American League managers, they wrote the same 9 names in the lineup every day. They didn't care. You know, if you talk to a guy like Jim Rice, he's like, what, I'm going to take a day off? No, I'm not taking a day off. And that's who I was too. When I was in the minor leagues, you're not taking me out. I'm playing. I play every day. You see my elbows, they're bleeding. They're bloody. My hips, my knees. I don't care. This is what I'm here to do. And that's the way it was back then. But I happened to be the guy sitting at the end of the bench. So I didn't get much playing time. But that first game, it was amazing because I ended up going 3 for 5 with 2 home runs in my first major league start against Minnesota. So I hit one into their bullpen and one into our bullpen. And then I thought, man, this crap's going to be easy. If I hit 2 home runs first start, I'm gonna dazzle for the rest of my career. And then I ended up with 19 career homers.
Oh, too funny. Too funny.
You sound like me talking up me playing fantasy camp next year. I got it. Don't worry about it. It's totally fine.
I always admit that was my greatest day. People say, what was your best day in the big leagues? I'm like, well, it was my first day. But if you admit that, that means that the rest of my 9-year career was a steady decline after that day. So it's and it was weird because I had no at-bats. Well, I had a few at-bats because the same thing, I got a pinch hit appearance or I'd come in not very often. But then I ended up with 465 at-bats that year. So I didn't play at all for the first 2 months and then played every day after that.
Awesome.
That's wild. That
awesome.
Is wild.
That's amazing. That's amazing. That's amazing that you, of course, you're going to remember that because you also would have remembered it if you went 0 for 5 with 5 strikeouts, right? It's the games you don't remember. You went 1 for 3, right?
Yeah, exactly. I had 3 hits and 2 homers. That was a good day.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah. So you have all these, fantastic at bats after, even though you say it's like, your best day or whatever. Who was your favorite and least favorite person to bat off of?
Oh, pitchers. Oh, good. I'm glad you weren't talking personality. I'd have to.
Oh God, yeah. No, we won't go there.
We're not going to get you. We're not going to get you sued, Steve. Don't worry.
That answer.
Come on, that John Smith. I hated that guy. He was a jerk. It's so weird because I literally have a computer printout that has every one of my at-bats and who I faced. And I was surprised when I looked at it. Like, I played against an era of some pretty dominating pitching. I played from 85 to 93. And so like you face the Toronto Blue Jays and I'd have to face Dave Stewart and Dave Stieb, and you face, like you see Randy Johnson, when I got traded to the White Sox, I'm facing Roger Clemens. I faced all the best pitchers of my generation. There's no question. But for some reason, when I looked at my numbers, I was like 1 for 22 against Dave Stieb. And he had a nasty slider that I couldn't hit. But I wasn't afraid of him. I didn't think I hit that poorly against him. I just didn't get many hits. Same thing for Dave Stewart. There's other guys out there. But the guy I hated to face was John Candelaria. He was 6'7". He pitched left-handed. He used to step towards first base And so when he was throwing the ball at me, this is what I saw. Nothing. I saw nothing. It came from the first base dugout. So I was so afraid because I couldn't see. Like when you're facing Roger Clemens, I mean, it wasn't no day in the park, but I wasn't scared. I kind of, like, all right, let's see what I got. I only have 2 hits against Roger too, but I mean, John Candelaria, I was afraid because I couldn't see the ball. So I was afraid I was going to get hit. So the funny thing about that is I'm 1 for 8 against him lifetime. And my only hit was a home run in Yankee Stadium when he played for the Yankees. He got behind me at 2-0. And I thought, well, he's going to have to throw a strike now. And so I just closed my eyes and swung hard and hit it into the right.
Hit it into the short porch. Right?
Yeah, porch. Good thing it hit like 2 rows deep too. But I think my numbers against Brett Saberhagen were actually pretty good. But the same thing, I wouldn't have remembered that I hit him good. But guys like Brett Saberhagen and Gubazov, guys like Storm Davis, they loved their fastball. They had a good fastball. They loved to throw it. Fastball is the only pitch I could hit. Storm Davis used to love to throw fastballs inner half. Guess what? That's my hot zone. That's the only, you didn't have many hot zones. My hot zone, I go this big. So if he threw it in there, I'd hit. That was the only pitch I could hit. So I was happy when they threw it in there.
Yeah, no, I feel that. That's the only thing I can hit as well, Steve. So literally, like people go, you can't hit that well. I'm like, I can hit a fastball. So throw me that if you want me to prove how well I can hit. Yeah, interesting. Am I remembering this right? That you were in like the minors with Clemens?
I was. Yeah, he came when we were in AA. Right when he got drafted, he came straight to AA. We were basically in the playoffs, and he went 6-0 for us, and was the main reason why we won the championship in AA. Wow. And next year, I went to Pawtucket, and we won the championship again. But Roger was already, in the big leagues at that point. So yeah, pretty special, playing behind him anytime.
Yes, I thought I remember that right. Sorry.
Just as a side note to that. Did you, when he came up and he was with you guys, did you recognize it and just say, this is an amazing talent? This guy's going to do something in the show? Or was this kind of like, hey,
No. Yeah. I mean, we obviously we knew he was the first round pick, and, I was a first round pick. So it's like,
you were,
Lyons is a first round pick. He can't do crap. And this guy, when he walked in, you just knew it. And then when he pitched, at that time I was playing third base, and, I was thinking, wow, I'm not going to get a whole lot of action down here because nobody can hold him, But it was just, Roger was amazing. And I sum it up this way. It's like, there's a lot of guys that can throw hard. And Roger was, the guns back when I played, they would say, oh, this guy has gas. I said, well, what's he throwing? He throws 90. Well, 90 was the benchmark of someone that threw hard back then. Even though you can't tell me that 20 years later, guys are throwing the ball 10 miles an hour faster today than they were back then. You're talking about Clem and Randy Johnson, J.R. Richard, and guys like that. They were throwing 100. The problem was the guns we had back then weren't sophisticated enough to pick it up. And so, those guys were throwing just as hard. And the difference with Roger was, number one, he had secondary pitches. But number two is there's tons of guys, and we see it in the big leagues every day today. Guys throw hard. And the problem is hitters are stupid enough to swing at balls that aren't strikes. They swing at everything that's up here. They can't hit it because they've been taught to hit launch angle. You can't get on top of this pitch up there, 100 miles an hour. But if you throw it knee high or thigh high, I can hit that. I don't care how hard you throw it. The good Lord can't throw a fastball by me thigh high. Up here, I'm not swinging at it, but that's what we said. I digress.
No.
Knew where.
That's awesome. That's perfect.
Love it.
That's perfect.
Clemens was an anomaly because he threw 100 and he could throw it anywhere he wanted to. That's what made him great. It was just, oh, you want it down and away? See ya. You want it up and in? Watch your lips. You want it inside? Good. I got you. I'm right on your belt buckle. Now what? Oh, shoot. Should I throw a slider away and twist this guy right into the ground? Why not? What the hell? I got it. And that was amazing to watch.
It's funny that you mentioned John Candelaria. That's not who I would have thought you would have said. I would have thought a couple of the other guys, but I did an interview.
my stats, didn't you? You see that I didn't hit other guys really poorly, didn't you?
Listen, I was a huge fan of you. When you were with the Dodgers organization, I would listen to you quite a bit. And I was a huge fan of yours. And so we're gonna have to get together at some point or something like that and get a picture or something. But
yeah, I mean, hey, you know, if you start talking about my broadcast career, I don't have I don't even know if it's an ego about that, but I certainly didn't have an ego about my playing career. I wasn't very good. I busted my tail to be average. As a broadcaster, I worked my butt off. I thought I really had something to offer. I thought it was really good. And I suppose if you're really good and you're having fun and you're doing what they ask you to do, which was be controversial, be funny, you know, tell it like it is, you know, as soon as you do that and they don't like it, they fire you. So I'm like, you know, I was kind of a victim of that with Fox. I got let go with the Dodgers simply because they changed networks after being there for 10 years. That was hard to take. And then when I was in Boston, I never really got the straight story there, but I heard that I was a little too critical during the 2020 season when they were the worst team in baseball by far. And maybe the organization got tired of me saying it every night. You know, I was like, aren't we the Boston Red Sox? You know, it's funny because they did 60 games, right? And I did 55 of them. But for some reason, I was the guy that wasn't being renewed. Really? I must have been the weak link. I don't know. So, you know, you try to get, but yeah, I thought I had something to offer, and I thought I did a damn good job because I worked my butt off at it.
yeah, you did. You were good. Lesley, you were going to say something. I'm going to come back to the hitters in a second, Steve, because this may shock you, but I'm curious to see what you have to say. But Les, you were going to say something.
I'm now stuck on 2020 going.
I would ask TC. I'd say, TC, who's pitching today? And he'd go like, oh, Ben Johnson. I'm like, Ben Johnson. Well, he was in Double-A the last 2 years. Last year he was out of the game. And I'm like, and he is the starting pitcher for the Boston freaking Red Sox tonight? That's who we're running out there? Some dude who wasn't even playing last year?
It's like Steve was in my house. I don't know. And the fact that anybody would feel that that's critical, especially if you're saying 2020, which obviously social media has been around. I don't know of anybody who wasn't and hasn't been, for that matter, critical of the Red Sox.
Well, it was
other
funny.
Than 4, 7, 13, 18.
Right.
And last year, because we were fairly successful.
Fans liked what I did, you know, because they weren't their TV something that I said, you know, because I felt like I was telling them the truth. I felt like I knew how to criticize players without burying them. You know, as a player myself, you know, you don't like to hear your name in a bad way, but sometimes if you're 0 for 4 and you make an error, you know, I'm going to say something about it. You know, you had a rough day. It's no good. But you know, 2020 was just like, come on. You know, with the thing that kind of, well, a lot mad. They couldn't give me a good reason why I wasn't coming back. And also they hired 8 guys, count them, no fewer than 8 guys to replace me. One of which was Roddy. And I like Maz and everything for his radio show. They fired me for being too critical, and they hire a guy that sits there every day and says how much he hates the Red Sox, how bad they are as an organization, and blah, 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 blah. I'm like, that's the guy you hire? Along with 7 other guys to replace me, mostly guys that have never done the job at all. And I think I want to say every one of those guys are gone now. So, you know, that didn't work out too well.
I mean, yes. And I mean, if we're going to be critical, I very famously did this last year. So I ran into Tristan Casas at the Best Buddies bike ride, because I do that every year. And he was there, and he came up to me, and he's just the sweetest guy, which then I felt a little bad about talking about how the poor guy just couldn't get on first base. And he's like, oh, were you critical? And I said, yeah, I'll tell you right now, I've not been the nicest person about you. And he goes, is it because I polish my nails? And I was like, I don't care if you do a rainbow on your nails with like glitter exploding from them. I just need you to get on first base.
Exactly.
And pop up when it comes to first base. That's all I need you to do, man.
Boston tough down dude that you paint your nails, I guess. So
Yeah, I could care less. I just need you to get on.
Hit the ball. And you know what? Costas, to me, I mean, he got off to a slow start and all that stuff. And then last year, then he got hurt. Almost a forgotten man. I think if Costas gets 550, 600 at bats, he hits 35 home runs and he drives in 110. But you got to stay on the field to do that.
You got to stay on the field. You can't get injured, and it's been 2 seasons in a row that he's been injured. So I mean, really, right? So that to me was the killer.
Lineup.
Yeah, I'm rooting for him. I hope he does great. He's on my team. I hope like the best, but just get on first base, man. That's all.
And he could be that guy. He could be that guy that surprises everybody. Stays.
Yes.
Exactly. Mark my words. If you give him 600 at bats, he hits 35 and drives in at least 110. I
hope so.
Lesley, we talked about him, didn't we? After the Red Sox had the documentary out on Netflix, I think we talked about. Or was that Jared Duran that we were talking about in the documentary? Because Netflix put out that documentary.
Was I optimistic or pessimistic? And I can tell you the answer. Jared Duran, I can't talk bad about because my niece is going to marry him, she says. So I have to love him forever.
Tell her to get in line,
I know, right? I tried to prepare the poor girl. But
you were a little pessimistic, so I think it was
it was definitely Casas. Yeah. No, I can't dampen the poor girl's feelings. She has her Duran jersey, and he hit a home run for her at her first game last year. So it's very exciting.
Game every time they were talking about trading somebody, and they're talking about trading Duran, and certainly didn't have his best year. Maybe he took a step backwards a little bit. But here's a guy who comes in and busts his tail every day.
Every day.
He's a good teammate. He's I mean, he had a couple slip ups, the public comments that he made. And of course, his mental issues, trying to, talking about suicide. And sometimes that puts a stain on you, but gosh dang, the guy comes to play every day. And I mean, nobody on that team plays harder. I can't name that plays harder than him. And his name comes up every time you're talking about trading someone. That's not the guy I'm trading. I need that clubhouse. I need that on the field. I need a guy that goes first to third like his hair's on fire. I need a guy that gets excited about playing. It's a slow game. You need some guys like that.
Well, and I think if I'm remembering this correctly, and correct me if I'm wrong, Steve, because you might know, because I know we both know the person that made the Scully helmet, but the Wally head helmet was his idea. He wanted something that the team could utilize, when you do get that home run and you wear the helmet. So you definitely want people like that in your clubhouse. You don't want people sitting around complaining that they don't play.
There's a lot, like after the 2018 World Championship team, of which, I have a big ring. And again, if I'm critical of NESN and maybe the way they treated me at the end, I certainly can be, I can say something really good about them. I mean, it was NESN that enabled us to get those championship rings. And, it did it for a lot of us that work there. And, that's amazing. And I rarely wear it. I wear it when I want to show off. I wear it when I have to go to the camp. And I think, I wear it when I think that the people that are going to see it are going to get something out of it. And they love it.
Appreciate it.
We do.
Yeah. And I always tell the people the same thing. I said, nope, you can't take a picture with it. And they look at me funny. And I said, unless you're wearing it. If you're wearing it, you can take a picture with it. Then you can. And they're like, no way, I can wear it. I'm like, yeah. So to me, it's way less. It's not about me anymore. It's about how much enjoyment they get out of seeing that ring. And for me, that's awesome then. And I thank Ness for making sure that we got those.
Yeah, I will say that Folke and Embry have let me wear the 04 ring. And of course, that one's the most special to me because it was my first one since I've been a fan since I was 3. So I waited a while for that one. And every time I wear it, I'm just like, this is the one, right? So, but yeah, 18. I didn't know you had an 18 ring. I would have definitely bugged you to try that on. So
the whole thing was since then, the team really hasn't had. I mean, they traded away a bunch of the guys from that 18 team. We don't have to. We all know they're all gone. And then they ended up with a bunch of guys that were sort of the same, and not guys like Duran who wanted to come and rock the boat a little bit, shake things up and be loud. There's just, when they got Verdugo, I was kind of like, all right, I like this signing because he is going to be kind of a jerk, kind of a conceited guy, loud guy. And as long as Deuce is on the field, that's going to be great. Of course, he didn't have that many great years, shipped him out of there, but potential to be one of those guys that you could count on to make a little noise. And you need guys.
Yes, they do.
One of my favorite things about Alex Verdugo, it just tells you about his personality that, I mean, I've talked to a couple of people that says situational awareness may or may not have been his thing.
Yeah.
So I don't know if you remember in 2024 during the World Series, Ice Cube came out and was rapping at Dodger Stadium. And Alex Verdugo is playing for the Yankees and he's got his hat sideways and he's bumping to Ice Cube. And yet Ice Cube is changing the lyrics to rip on the Yankees and he's bumping there. And Freddie Freeman is just shaking his head going, I can't believe this. Yet Alex Verdugo thinks it's the coolest thing ever.
Yeah.
It's like, well, situational awareness.
Okay, it's fine. He had his moment.
What's that, Steve?
He wasn't listening to any of the words.
No, he wasn't. He wasn't paying attention. He wasn't paying attention. Okay, I got to ask you a question. So
that's why
one of my favorite movies is For Love of the Game, which you know a little bit about that.
Yeah.
What's that?
Yes.
Oh, it's Leslie's. Yeah, you know a little bit about that.
I have a special thing for a Kevin Costner baseball movie. Anyway, it's fine.
But I grew up a Dodger fan, and I listened to Vin Scully a lot. Besides for the movie, what was it like working with Vinny?
Well, okay, I'll tell you that in the movie together, I always tell everybody that I was the last person to ever work with Vin Scully because we worked in the movie. And of course, for the last 30 years of his career, he worked by himself. So obviously I worked for the Dodgers for 9 years and never worked with Vin because he worked by himself. So I worked around him every night.
Right.
Pre and post game shows at home. Vin at that time, didn't travel a lot. So he didn't like to go out of our division. So, I mean, it was a dream schedule that I had because I did 100 pre and post game shows. And then I did 50 games in the booth that Vin didn't do, when he didn't work. Me and another guy, did the games and that was great. And I loved doing the games and I loved doing pre and post. So it was the best of both worlds. But, Vin is exactly like you see him on TV, the nicest guy in the world, very grateful for everything that came to him the easiest guy around. So it was a blessing being around him. I get, 1 year, I don't know if this is lucky or it's just like, you never wish ill will on Vin Scully, of course, but Vin was sick 1 year, he had a really bad cold. And so he didn't do opening day. And so myself and, oh God, I can't even think of this guy. I don't like him that much. and it's so apropos.
Charlie Steiner?
Yes. It's so apropos that I can't think of his name. You know why? Because he forgot my name 11 times when we were doing an open on a show. Hi, Charlie Steiner. I'm here with. Oh yeah, let's do that again. Yeah, Steve Lyons. Thank you. He forgot my name. 10 or 12. It was like anyway. Charlie did an opening day at Dodger Stadium, and so down through history, where you look at all the opening days, Vin Scully, Steve Lyons. Vin Scully.
Yeah.
Love that.
So it's kind of cool to be in that record book anyway.
You worked with a guy or worked around a guy named Jake who speaks very highly of you. He worked for the Dodgers for a long time. I actually texted Jake and asked him, about you and said, what was that like? And he says he was one of the nicest guys in the world. He may or may not, I'm not going to confirm or deny live on air here, but he may or may not have the same feelings for Charlie Steiner as you do. He loves Rick Monday because he worked on the radio side. He did the engineering for the radio side.
Okay. Yeah.
You know who I'm talking about now.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so he may or may not have loved Charlie Steiner. We'll just leave it at that.
Yeah, let's just say Charlie's still best known for his boxing analysis on ESPN 30 years ago.
Oh yeah,
I think
Charlie's a different beast for sure. But yeah, no, Jake spoke very highly of you and said you were a great guy, and I was looking forward to it because he had a lot that nice things to say to you.
I had when I looked at Rick Monday, I thought to myself, if I was Rick, I would do one of two things. Because if you're the radio analyst, you don't get to say that much because, on radio, you have to paint the picture. And that's the play-by-play guy. If you're the analyst on TV, you're the star of the show. It should be your game. The play-by-play guy should just be setting you up all the time. You can see the picture going on. He doesn't have to, you can talk through pitches as long as the guy doesn't hit a ball deep into the gap. In radio, you can't do that. Radio, the play-by-play guy, some guy's in his car. You have to paint the entire picture. So if I was a color guy on radio, I would do one of two things. I would probably either mail it in every night because the only thing I ever get to say is, "That's right, Charlie." Or I'd stick a gun under my chin going, "What am I doing here in this job? It's ridiculous." You just don't get to do anything. So it's like, so I love Rick Monday even more because he had to endure being the radio analyst for so many years.
Yeah. Good, wonderful guy. Wonderful.
And stop that dude in center field from lighting the flag on fire. Remember that?
When he was a Cubby. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Leslie, somebody was trying to protest at Dodger Stadium and two guys ran onto the field. And back then you didn't have 90 security guards ready to tackle them.
Mm-hmm.
And so these guys actually got the flag on the field and poured lighter fluid on it and tried to light a match, but the wind blew it out. And Rick came from right field and grabbed the flag. Steve, do you know where that flag's at?
That's a choice.
They show it every day on like Memorial Day or.
Yeah. Do you know where that flag's at, Rick?
Oh, I have no idea. Does he have it? It's
on Rick Monday's mantle. The Dodgers got it and gave it to him.
Oh, it should be. Yeah, it's a great moment. When I was working with the Dodgers, we look forward to that every year because we knew we were going to celebrate it. And we also knew that, the rest of the world would celebrate it too. So it was just, just one of those patriotic moments that you love to see.
Yeah, those are good moments. But thanks for answering the question about Vin because I love that movie. That movie's so much fun. And you guys, were you guys on a sound studio when you did it or were you guys actually at Yankee Stadium?
We were at a sound studio. And the weird thing was they shot us so close. We could have been anywhere. But the studio that they made was an exact replica of Yankee Stadium's announcing booth, like right to the cigarette marks in the Formica on the table, and it was unbelievable. But then they shot us so close, you didn't really see. But the great thing about that movie is they let Vin and I change the ending, believe it or not.
Really?
Yeah, they showed us what was going on. What they did is they had shot all the baseball scenes before. And so they told us, you need to know the relationship between the players. You need to know this guy used to play with this guy, and this is his name, and this is the deal. So you guys understand that. And then what they did is they put the game on in front of us on a TV, and they said, call the game. And so we didn't have a script. We just called what we saw. And we knew relationships between the players. But we sat there in a screening room afterwards and they showed us a couple great plays, because they were going to Hollywood it up, right? And I looked over at Vin and he was just kind of looking down. So I kind of knew he thought that I did. And this is really bad of me, but I believe Sam Raimi was the director of the film. He said, what? And I said, it wouldn't happen that way. He goes, what are you talking about? He goes, when you have a no-hitter, every once in a while you have a nice play that happens in the fourth inning that you kind of forget about until the ninth, and then, something happens where it's like, oh, maybe you could blow it. No-hitters are a lot of times they're mundane. And I understand that it's Hollywood, but they had a play where the ball was going up the middle and the shortstop got it and he threw it behind his back to the second baseman. Second baseman threw it on to first, get the guy out. And I'm like, yeah, it wouldn't happen. So they said, well, what would you guys do? And I said, well, keep the play. Just have the ball. When the ball goes over Costner's head, have the camera come from the catcher. So he's looking straight to the center field and you see the ball going and there's nobody there that can catch it. Like there's no one there, right? And then when the ball goes up the middle, just have the up, like come out of nowhere. And he picks it up and fires the guy out and he gets him by half a step. That's still a great play, but it's not all the theatrics that just probably wouldn't happen. You know, they had another diving play in that inning too that was a little unrealistic and stuff. So, and they listened to us and they changed it. I should have got a writing credit.
You should have, Steve.
So,
You
I mean,
should have.
Vinny's famous for a lot of his lines, but a cathedral as Yankee Stadium belongs to a chapel. So that wasn't in the script.
All off the cuff, like nothing. Like I'm sitting there, you know, and it's funny. I get that it's Vin Scully, but if you watch the movie again, like he'll say something and then I'll start talking and I'll be like in a sentence and then you fade out and then it will go to a different scene or it'll go somewhere else. Like Vin got to talk and then I got to talk a little bit.
Well, Steve, you'll appreciate this, and I'll turn it back over to Lesley here in a second, but you'll appreciate this. I worked for a company 13 years ago, and we changed offices and we were in cubicles. There were certain places where we were in cubicles, and they said, hey, pick out your own ringtone, whatever you want. That way we can know whose phone's ringing, like if you're at lunch or whatever, you know, yada, yada, yada. So I worked for a bunch of people that couldn't even spell baseball, much less anything else.
I can smell it coming. I know exactly what yours was.
What do you think it was?
It's time for Dodger baseball.
You would think that, but I went over to our tech guy and I said, I went over to our tech guy. Guy was probably 5'6", 120 pounds, dripping wet. I used to call him Big Sexy. And he thought that was hilarious. So I walked over to him. I said, Big Sexy, can you do any ringtone? And he says, yes. And I said, I want you to clip where Vin Scully says, in a year that has been so improbable, the impossible has happened.
Yeah.
And then, so he did that. So every time my phone rang, it would be like the crowd cheering and then Vinny saying that. And then I left the company like 6 months later and they lost the password to change the ringtone. So the poor guy that had my desk for about 2 years after it, that was his ringtone. And he didn't know anything about baseball either. So it was awesome. It was.
Well, also the line too that he says, and I won't get this right, but it's something to the effect that maybe late into this fall evening, Billy Chappell can use that sore and aching right arm to push the sun back up into the sky for just one more night. It was, and I'm like looking at him like, are you kidding me? Because I know he did this stuff. He wasn't writing it. He just like, it just rolls off the guy's tongue. And I'm like, yeah, this is a good baseball game.
You're like, I can't do that. I don't know how he does that. I can't do that, coach.
Yeah. Oh
man, that's awesome. That is awesome. Thanks for sharing that with me. That's one of those movies that I saw right after it came out, right after we got married. My wife and I got married, and she knew she was stuck with it. And you know, Kevin Costner's done a lot of great baseball movies, but to me, that one is the icing.
It's so funny because, you know, I went to the premiere of that. We did the red carpet thing, and it didn't do great in the theater, but it's one of those movies where if you thought it was going to be a great movie, you're probably disappointed. If it snuck up on you or you didn't see it and then you saw it on Netflix or you saw it down the road, you're like, damn, this is a pretty good movie. So I run into people all the time that say that's one of their favorite movies, but it wasn't supposed to be. You know what I mean? It wasn't like this big blockbuster that everyone was supposed to like. It just hung out there and just people came to it and they really like it.
I mean, I think that's fair. I mean, it's Kevin Costner and it's baseball. So you already, I mean, like Bull Durham, obviously one of my favorites. Field of Dreams.
Yeah.
But in fact, Steve, I know I've told Bill this practically every single show. I was in Iowa in 2004, and we were at Field of Dreams that day on October 27th, 2004. And so I always get to say that Iowa is the place where dreams come true because the Red Sox won the World Series that day.
My dad's birthday is 90.
And then also that was my ringtone for years afterwards was all people Joe Buck's call of that last play because Keith Folk was my favorite player.
That was the 99 All-Star game was ridiculous in Boston. I was I was working for Fox then, and I was a little bit against it because quite frankly, I just didn't really think the city of Boston, because it's so small and compact, I didn't think they could pull it off. I didn't know where they were going to do the fan fest. I didn't know how they were going to handle the traffic. How are they going to handle all these people coming into the city for this game? But it was amazing. You know, they had 100 living players, and Costner was there, and I was standing on the top of the steps of the dugout. Me and my best friend Jimmy McNulty and Costner were standing there talking about whatever, because he had to narrate a thing that night, and was one of the, during the national anthem, was one of the first flyovers they ever did. And I swear to God, they've changed it since then, because the flyover they did that night, those jets were about 100 feet over the Green Monster, and they flew straight over. And then the sound until after the jets were gone, all three of us jumped into the dugout like we'd all been shot. It was because no one, that was one of the first times they had ever like that, and we had no idea what, and we're standing there and it's coming straight at us, and we're like, what? Oh my God, what is that? And it was unbelievable.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Oh,
that's amazing. I love it. I love it. I absolutely love it. Steve, you got a great pedigree on both. I think in the game and in the booth. I mean,
oh, for sure.
I've totally enjoyed this. I could do this for hours with you, my friend. I mean, I love hearing these stories.
I got more rum.
I interviewed Gary Gaetti about a month and a half ago, who you played around. I asked him the same question about a pitcher, and he says, you know who, and this was funny that he said this. He says, you know who I struggle with the most was Don Ossie. He's like, he just had a ball that just disappeared on you.
Yeah.
And I laughed because he was one of my pitching coaches growing up, he and John Verhoeven, because they had a little shop in Anaheim called Grand Slam USA years ago. I said, Gary, did you just say Don? And he said, yeah. So I told him the story, and he says, have you talked to Don? I said, I haven't talked to Don in years. I haven't talked to John either. But yeah, he just said, oh yeah. So it was, when you said John Candelaria, it just made me crack up. I'm like, the most random guys that you would think somebody say Nolan Ryan, Mike Scott, J.R. Richards, whatever, right?
I couldn't hit those guys either.
I'm glad we clarified that.
Yeah.
Okay, for those of you who don't know how I managed to befriend the legend that is Steve Lyons, I have gone down to fantasy camp for the last 2 years. So that's where I ran into him. And I could not get an answer. I messaged so many people, and no one really knows the answer to this. So you can tell us here. Are you the one that started the unofficial fantasy camp, or were you just part and participated in the unofficial fantasy camp before the Red Sox picked up the actual fantasy camp that I know you from?
Well, I would technically call that the official Red Sox camp, because they were.
Well, you would, but
you said, Steve, that's exactly what I was thinking. As soon as she said that, I'm like, oh, this is.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, the one that the Red Sox acknowledge.
I started. I started doing it, I think, in 1994. I had done it for 30 years.
Yes.
And it started off, it was the only Red Sox camp. So it was literally official Red Sox camp at the time. And then the Red Sox figured out, hey, we can make money doing this. So they came to the guy, Larry Marino was the guy running it at the time, and he was about the third owner. And they came to him and said, hey, maybe we should be partners and do this. And Larry basically told us later on that Red Sox didn't really want to be partners. They kind of wanted to run him out of business. And he said, I'm going to stay on my own. And he did for a while. And then he sold it to another guy, and that guy kind of ran it into the ground. So for the last 5 years, this past season was the first year they didn't do it, but it's been going for 35, maybe more than 35 years. I did it for 30. And I've made lifelong friends from that, much the same way that all these people that are going to the Red Sox camp over and over, they are making lifetime friends, business partners. Guys are doing deals together. They're meeting each other on vacations. It's such an amazing thing. And, when I talk about it, because, for 3 years in a row, championship in week 1 down there, and you go from 12 guys that don't know each other to a family in 2 days. And if you care about each other, and if you care about what you're doing, and I do, And I don't know what my reputation is down there. I know that I think almost every guy down there wants to play for me, and every other guy that's not wants to beat my butt because I care and I try and I win. And, you know, I tell my guys every time, we're going to play 3 games and you can play wherever you want. You want to catch, you catch. You want to play second base, you play second base. And then after 3 games, you guys come back to me and you say, we think we're pretty good. Maybe we should try to win. I'm like, then great. Then you're not playing second base anymore. That guy's I said, if you want to win, then I'll start managing this team the way we can try to win. And I won. I was in the championship game the first year, and I won 3 straight years after that. And this last year was the first year I haven't won for a while.
I was going to say, so last year you won with Lenny, right?
Yeah. I've been with Lenny every year before that.
Yeah. So he told me to ask you about your trading cards you did last year.
Oh yeah, they didn't even do those this year, I don't think. Yeah, we were
Because you were with Lenny. It's not the same thing with the stepbrothers and all the things that you guys do. You guys are too much fun.
And we had Back to the Future and Step Brothers. Those were our baseball cards. And he loves to do the visual stuff. I just like to gripe at people and tell them how bad they are.
Here's the thing that's so fun about fantasy camp for someone who hasn't played yet, because I killed my shoulder. I have to get it fixed before I can go out and play. Is that the inherent competitiveness of you guys being pro ball players is so still relevant for you guys as coaches, because Trot Nixon's one that I will forever have emblazoned in my mind. Not this last year, but the year before when I was there. One of the brothers that plays challenged Trot on a call on the field. And I mean, the joke, you know, with Trot Nixon, even in the 2004 documentary that they did, was that he could go from perfectly fine, I love you, you're great, to I see red and everyone's going to die. Yeah. And it was kind of the same mentality. And I'm looking at the person next to me like, this is just fantasy camp baseball.
Yeah.
No one's, it's, I mean, it's real in the sense that everybody's having fun and they want to win, but it's not like an actual World Series. And this was still in the, you know, the main fields. It wasn't even in JetBlue Park. And I just remember thinking, this is going to be so much fun. I cannot wait to do this. And I really was going to, and then I hurt my shoulder. But
yeah, 2 years ago,
I love it.
2 years ago in the championship game, there was a call against us that was just completely wrong, and I went nuts. And you know, even I was against Doug Mirabelli, and I can't remember who he was coaching. It might have been Miller. I can't remember.
Wasn't it?
Who?
I thought it was Manny, but it's not Manny.
No, not Manny. But Doug was yelling at me. He's like, dude, it's fantasy camp. And I was, I spun around and looked at him. I'm like, what? You don't want to win? Because my guys want to win. This is a championship game. It was fantasy camp days ago. It ain't anymore. And that guy just made a call against us that's wrong. And I needed, so I was like, you know, what are we doing down here? You can't make a call like that at this situation. You know, it was a big call in a tight situation, and it went against us, and it shouldn't have. And we won the game anyway. So there.
Well, there you go. Did you happen to watch week 1's championship game this last year?
Yep.
Were you there? So there was a call, and it's emblazoned in my mind because obviously one of my good friends is Dave Cameron, and the second baseman, I believe, was Boz. And so there was an obstruction call on Boz, but Cam thought it was on him. And I mean, to tell you, I'm looking at him like, oh, you just got to calm down.
Yeah. Because
it's so real for anybody that's playing. I mean, as it would be for me. And I fully expected that helmet to like fly across the field. It's anybody that's a Red Sox fan, it's seriously one of the best experiences. Everybody should do it. It's so much fun.
It's hard to explain. Hard to describe the feeling that people have. You know, every guy gets hurt. You blow a hamstring, you hurt your arm, you blow a quad, everyone's limping to dinner, and you won't see a bigger smile on anyone than everybody.
You won't be, and you did such a fantastic job with this. Corsi's court and all of the kangaroo courtness of everything is so much fun to watch and see everybody like whip out their dollars to.
Oh yeah,
The Red Sox Foundation is
my best work. I do all the things in the Corsi's court that I can't say on regular TV.
No, yeah, you can't.
Oh my gosh.
I see Cam sitting next to me going, okay, yep, I did that. It's just whipping out the money.
I just tell Cam to bring his wallet up and put it next to me. We'll let you know how much you get back.
Exactly. I mean, that's kind of what it seems like. And it's fantastic. I was here for all of it. So
My favorite all time. This is the greatest one. And I'll tell this story because it's about Oil Can Boyd, and I love Oil Can. I have great, I don't have enough time. But me and JP were coming back. It was probably 11:30, and we're headed back towards the hotel. And we see this black SUV circling the parking lot. And about the front, the SUV meets the front, and the window goes down, and it's Can. And I'm like, yo, Can, what are you doing out here, man? You looking for trouble? And he goes, yo, Steve, he goes, I've been out here for 15 minutes driving on this parking lot looking for my car. And I'm like, Can, you're or his car. So I thought that was a good one.
that's just like him, though.
Yeah,
It's just like him.
that's Oil Can right there, man.
I can't tell the story I have about Can on a live broadcast. So I'll tell you afterwards. But yeah, he's just Can is fantastic.
I'll tell you, let me tell you this quick story about him. It was one of the greatest compliments of my career I ever had. He came he was pitching one day, and he came into the office and he asked John McNamara, who's playing center field? And McNamara said, Tony Armas is playing center field. He goes, no. He goes, I want Steve Lyons. I want Steve Lyons playing center field. And he goes, Tony Armas hit 43 home runs last year. He goes, I don't care. He goes, what are you talking about? He goes, I don't really need the offense. What I need is when I give up, if I hang one and a guy ropes one off the left center field wall, I need a guy that's going to run through the wall to catch it. That's Steve Lyons. I want him playing center field.
Yes.
Oh, we won 5-3.
Oh,
That's such a great.
Steve,
Yeah.
Can I tell you something that similar to the Oil Can? Can I tell you a quick Tommy Lasorda one? So I'm sitting with Tommy back in the days. I'll make this quick, but I'm sitting with Tommy back in the days when blogs had first come out, right? And my buddy started writing a blog, and a lot of it was negative towards Frank McCourt. And so Frank had invited all these bloggers in for a suite one night, and they can invite 2 friends. And so I was one of them. And he said, we're going to bring a couple people in here, but nobody can write about what you hear in here. So Tommy comes in, and Tommy's being Tommy, right? He's just having a good time, right? And so at the end, after all the questions were over, anybody have a question? I raised my hand and I said, hey, what was more special for you, 81 or 88? And he says, 88. And I said, oh, okay. And he goes, because I had a bunch of idiots on that team. And I said, oh, okay, Tommy. And he said, he says, do you remember? He goes, do you remember when the second baseman, we'll leave his name nameless, but you know exactly who I'm talking about.
Yeah.
He goes, you remember that season? I said, I do. And he goes, he came into spring training all jacked up like he was going to hit a bunch of home runs. And I told him, we pay you to get on base. And he said, so I'm standing on the batting cages, and he's during batting practice, and he's hitting like balls out of the yard. And Kenny Landreau's standing next to him. And he told him, he says, I want you to come up with a strategy on how to hit. And tomorrow I want to know how you're going to get on base. And this second baseman, who you know who I'm talking about, the next day said, Skip, I want to hit 50% of the time I want to hit to left field, 50% of the time I want to hit to right field, and 20% of the time I want to hit it to center. And Tommy realizes now he just said 120%. So he looks at Kenny Landreau and he says, what do you think? And he goes, I think that's perfect. I think that works. And Tommy's like, okay, I got no issues. Now that second baseman, after Tommy died, was at an event in Fullerton that I was at. And I asked him about that story, and he goes, yeah, I don't know that really happened. But there's a guy that wrote a book called The Lasorda University that said that absolutely did happen. So I don't know if I'm taking Zach's side of it or the second baseman.
Yeah, I mean, Tommy was a funny guy because, you know, he got paid a ton of money to go speak places, and I saw him a few times. And Tommy, what he did was he relied on a lot of one-liners and tried to be funny, which he did a good job. But I kept thinking to myself, this guy has seen so much and could have so many really great stories that are true, that he'd be so great to listen to, and he wouldn't have to be as funny. It would just be, the stories would just be so amazing. I mean, he used to tell the story all the time. They would ask, hey, Pedro Guerrero, Pedro, what are you thinking about when you're playing third base? They say, what are you thinking about? He says, I'm thinking that I hope they don't hit the ball to me. And they're ready. Well, after that, what are you thinking about? I'm thinking I hope they don't hit it to Steve Sachs. Probably never happened, but that's a story that Tommy tell. And you never. I believe me, when I go speak places, I tell a bunch of stories that aren't necessarily true, or you embellish the truth, or the names have been changed to protect the innocent or whatever. But, you never let the truth stand in the way of a good story.
Yes.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yep. Well, if anybody has any questions, we promised Steve we'd be on air for an hour. We've passed that, which I'm okay with staying on for a few more minutes. But if anybody has any questions, feel free to put them in a little box and we'll get to them. But I have to tell you, Steve, being a fan of that movie and being a fan of you when you were with the Dodgers, I followed your playing career, but being on the West Coast, you played in different time zones. And back then you couldn't get the internet and everything like that. Right. I mean, people don't believe me when I tell them this, but I used to have to wait for the sports page to come out, the sports section in the newspaper to come out, check box scores.
Yeah. So, sometimes the late box scores didn't make it until the next day.
Exactly. But I saw you play a bunch in Anaheim when you played predominantly with the White Sox, because that was when I was going to a lot more games. But this has just been such a treat for me. I appreciate you so much sharing these stories, and love to have you back on at another time. This would be great.
Yeah, do it anytime.
So, Lesley, do you want to wrap up with anything as we're wrapping up?
No, I did my obligatory question from Lenny, which was hilarious because I remember seeing those and they were the funniest thing possibly ever. I'm going, but hold on 1 second. I'm going back to.
Make sure you got all the questions.
I messaged Folky as well. Let's see if he said anything of interest. No, because he answered the fantasy camp one. So yeah. No, I don't really have anything else. I mean, you're the literal best. You're so much fun down at camp, and obviously that's how I've met you. So, but obviously I watched you do your commentary for years and years with NESN, so that was so much fun for me, and can't wait to hear more of the oil can stories because
there's a lot of them out there, boy. I'll tell you. No, I love him. The guy was a gamer, man. He took the ball every fifth day. He didn't care if his arm hurt. Didn't matter.
He didn't. I actually told him that, he wasn't the one that actually broke my heart in 1986. So that was nice for him. And
Yeah.
Me, I was traded by then.
I know. It wasn't you either. My parents, very, like, everybody that knows me knows this. They woke me up in 86 because they're like, they're not going to mess this up.
Yeah.
And then
But we can't blame Billy Buck. Listen, I will never blame that guy. He had a great career.
It's fine. But it literally broke my heart. So it's okay.
Billy Buck should literally be in the Hall of Fame. I don't know. I mean, he's got 2,800 hits.
Yeah, should be.
Dodgers, he could fly. I mean, so when early in my career, when I played with the Red Sox, people say, well, who was your favorite teammate? Well, my locker was right next to Gedman. And Geddy taught me, I was a crazy control. My nickname was, right? I was a little hyperactive, and I made my career being over aggressive, but that
what
could
was that nickname again?
Psycho.
Uh-huh.
Oh yeah. So, I mean, I made my career by being over aggressive, but it could also hurt me at times too. And Geddy was really good about, like, dude, settle down. Here's where you need to do this. He taught me a lot about being a pro ball player. And then after that, it would be Billy Buckner, because what I watched him have to do just to get on the field, to prep his ankles, he'd be in ice for an hour before the game and an hour after the game so his ankles could go out there and play. Yeah. And, to me, if you watch that play 100 times, you'll see every time that he didn't miss the ball. It was literally an act of God where the good Lord pushed the ball past his glove somehow, and he'd catch it 100 out of 100 times. And that time he just didn't. And there's just something weird at play. And, Billy takes the brunt of that, which is just too bad because, like I say, he's a Hall of Fame. Should be in the Hall of Fame.
It was just hindsight is hindsight, but it just wasn't meant to be that particular moment. So It was just heartbreaking to watch as a kid.
Yeah.
Not his fault.
There's a bunch of guys, Steve, that you played with in your generation that belong in the Hall, and I don't know why they're not there.
I know. I wonder why.
Yeah, like Louis Tion as well.
Yeah. Well, you know what Louis said for a long time. He says, don't put me in after I die. I don't want to be in there. I'll tell my family not to accept it. He goes, I've been waiting around for a long time. My numbers aren't going to change. He goes, if I'm not in, if you try to put me in after I die, I will instruct my family to line it.
Do you think Danny would have done that though? I think Danny would have let it go, but
yeah, I know. We'll see.
Yeah.
yes.
Well, it's there's guys like Murph and Garvey and Mattingly, bunch of good guys.
Yeah.
That are probably deserving of it. So.
Yeah, I played in a great era. It's long since been gone, right? I mean, my last year was 1993. We're talking about, we're sneaking up on what over 30 years now. So, time keeps marching on. But I loved the era that I played in. Some of the greatest players of the game. And I only played 9 years, but 85 to 93, 94 in that area. You think of the players that I played against. Amazing.
I tell people all the time that if I were a manager in the MLB now, because I grew up in the era watching you play, if a starting pitcher came up to me and wanted a pat on the fanning and said good game after pitching 5 innings, I'd look at him and go, where's the rest of it?
Yeah,
go out and get me 21 outs and then we'll talk.
I'll see you next week.
Yeah. Give me 21 outs and then we'll talk. Don't be excited that you got me 15 outs. I need more than that.
Yeah. Games change. No, that's a whole nother podcast. Next time I'll just go an hour on the changes, starting with replay, and I can go 3 hours. I hate.
So I'm just joking.
There you go.
We'll have you on in 2 weeks. Okay.
There you go. We'll have you back on in 2 weeks, Steve. Yeah, there you go. But hey, thanks for the time, Steve. I sure do appreciate it. For those of you that were watching, the replay will be up on Dirty Water Dispatch. It'll also be up on Top Fan Rivalry. We'll download it to make sure that we get it out there for these guys. If you're not following Dirty Water Dispatch or Boston Sports Zone, you definitely need to be doing that. If you're not following Top Fan, likewise. But Steve, this has been amazing. Stick around for 30 seconds once we end this, but it's been a treat. So thank you so much for the time.
Yeah, no problem. I know I got to hang around 30 seconds so you can, bleep out all my bad words.
No, you're good. All right. We'll see you in 2 weeks right back here. Have a good one all.
Thanks.
All right.